It was a cold winter's morning on the island of Sodor. The wind was bitter and the ground hard with frost. Thomas and Percy were cold and cross. "All I want is a warm boiler," huffed Thomas. "Firelighter knows that. He's late." "He's not late," replied Percy. "This cold weather woke us up early." Gusts of wind swirled flakes of snow towards Thomas. Then they swooshed round Percy too. "Why don't we talk about something else?" shivered Percy. "Yes, like how silly we look when our funnels turn into icicles." "That's not funny." "Maybe we'll stop feeling cold if we talk about warm things like sunshine and steam." "And firelighters," muttered Thomas. "Scarves," continued Percy. "Scarves? That's what you need, Percy. A woolly scarf round your funnel." Thomas was only teasing, but Percy thought happily about scarves until the firelighter came. Duck felt his responsibility deeply and talked endlessly about it. "You don't understand, Donald, how much the Fat Controller relies on me." "Och, aye," muttered Donald sleepily. "I'm Great Western, and I—" "Quack, quack, quack." "What?" "Ye heard? Quack, quack you go. Sounds like you'd an egg laid. Now wheesht and let an engine sleep." "Quack yourself," said Duck indignantly. It was an important day in the yard. Everyone was busy and excited, making notes and taking photographs. A special visitor had arrived and was now the centre of attention. "Who's that?" whispered Thomas to Duck. "That," said Duck proudly, "is a celebrity." "A what?" asked Percy. "A celebrity is a very famous engine," replied Duck. "Driver says we can talk to him soon." "Oh," said Thomas, "he's probably too famous to even notice us." Just then, Gordon arrived. "Pah," said Gordon. "Who cares? A lot of fuss about nothing, if you ask me." And he steamed away. Later that night, the engines found that the visitor wasn't conceited at all. He enjoyed talking to the other engines till long after the stars came out. He left early next morning. The Diesel surveyed the shed. "Not bad, I've seen worse. At least you're all clean," he sneered. The engines glared. "It's not your fault, but your controller should scrap you and get engines like me. A fill of oil, a touch on the starter, and I'm off. No bother, no waiting. They have to fuss around you for hours before you're ready." The engines were furious. Next morning, they held an indignation meeting round the turntable. "Disgraceful," mumbled Gordon. "Disgusting," said James. "Despicable," spluttered Henry. "To say such things to us," cried Donald and Douglas. "It's to teach him a lesson we'd be wanting. Now how do we do it?" Later that morning, George was at the level crossing. "Huh," he said. "You're Sir Handel, I suppose." Sir Handel was standing no nonsense. "And you, I suppose, are George, yes. I've heard of you." "And I've heard of you. You swank around with your steamroller wheels pretending you're as good as me." "Actually," retorted Sir Handel, "I'm better. Goodbye." George chuffered on, fuming. "Bother, bother!" Then he heard a loud whistle. It was George the steamroller. George was cross when he saw Caroline. "Call yourself a car, you're a disgrace to the road. Find yourself a scrapyard." Caroline spluttered in fury. Worse was to follow. "Help!" cried George. "Something snapped." He veered out of control and the Fat Controller landed in a muddy ditch close to where Thomas was taking on water. "Bother, bother!" Later, the Fat Controller spoke severely to Duncan. "Listen to me. There is nothing wrong with that tunnel. You stuck in it because you tried to do rock and roll. Tunnels are not dance floors, and you are not a pop star." The fat controller gave his full attention to Duncan's funnel. "If it happens again," he ended, ominously, "I shall find ways to cut you down to size. In other words, your career is on the line. Need I say more?" At the station, Diesel oiled up to her. "Toby's an old fusspot," she complained. Diesel sensed trouble and was delighted. "Toby says only steam engines can manage trucks," continued Mavis. "How absurd. Depend upon it, Mavis. Anything steam engines can do, we Diesels can do better." Diesel knew nothing about trucks, but Mavis didn't realise that. Mavis took no notice. Instead, she brought the trucks carefully down the lane and stopped at the level crossing. All traffic halted. "One in the headlamp for Fusspot Toby," chortled Mavis. But Mavis had stopped in the wrong place. Instead of taking Toby's advice, she had given the trucks the chance they wanted. Hold back, they cried. "Grrr, up," ordered Mavis. The trucks just laughed and her wheels spun helplessly. Workmen sanded the rails and tried to dig away the frozen mud, but it was no good. Everyone was impatient. "Grrr, ah," wailed Mavis. An angry farmer was telling Mavis just what she could do with her train. "Having trouble, Mavis?" chortled Toby. "I am surprised." "Gosh," said Mavis.
"Well done, Percy! Well done, Thomas!" cheered the villagers. "You're the best Santa Claus this village has ever had." "What's a Santa Claus?" asked Percy. "Santa Claus is someone who drops presents down chimneys at Christmas time." Percy looked at his funnel. "I wonder if—" "No," laughed Thomas. "Chimneys, Percy, not funnels."
Boulder rounded a bend, and there ahead was Rheneas. "It's running loose!" yelled Rheneas. His driver drove him back as fast as he could. Yikes! Rather a smash than a squash, sighed his driver.
A small engine with a tall funnel stood sad and alone in the shadowy siding. His driver was huddled in the cab, keeping him company. "Excuse me," said Rusty. "Do you like bluebells?" The engine looked startled. "Yes, bluebells are beautiful." "Then you're soon going to see lots of them because I'm getting you out of here." Everyone worked fast. It was difficult to set the fire, but soon it was glowing hot and Stepney had a good head of steam. Rusty's engineer agreed to be Stepney's fireman. So off they set, past the bleak and brooding line of diesels. "Where is he going?" they hissed. "Just down the line," replied Rusty. And they chuffered quickly away. "We've done it! We're over the border and back on our own railway. Mission accomplished." Sometimes they would tease him and chant, "Engines come, engines go, Grandpuff goes on forever." "You impertinent scallywags," Duke would say. "Whatever are you engines coming to?" "Never mind, Grandpuff, we're only young ones." "Well, you'd better mind, unless you want to end up like Smudger." "Oh, Grandpuff, whatever happened?" "Smudger," said Duke, "was a show-off. He rode roughly and often came off the rails." I warned him to be careful, but he took no notice. "Listen, Dookie, who worries about a few spills?" "We do here," I said, but Smudger just laughed. Until one day, manager said he was going to make him useful at last. Smudger stopped laughing then. "Why? What did he do?" "He turned him into a generator. He's still there behind our shed. He'll never move again." After that, Stuart and Falcon became really useful engines, and all three were happy together for many years. Stuart and Falcon were ready with a big welcome. "He's here," they whispered. "Shh, shh." "You woke me up," grumbled Duke. "In my young days, engines were seen and not heard, Grandpuff, we know. We'll all be back to work tomorrow. We're glad you've come back. We can keep you in order now." "Keep me in order? Be off with you." "Impudent scallywags," murmured Duke. But his old eyes twinkled, and for the first time in years he smiled as he dozed in the sun. That evening, a big storm raged across the island. Cranky and the big engines were trapped at the docks. "We're sure to be safe in this shed," said Duck. But he was wrong. The engines had no idea that they were about to be put in great danger by an old tramp steamer. It was out of control and running aground straight into the sheds. "Help!" called the engines from inside the shed. "I can't," called Cranky pathetically.
That night, Percy and Duck stayed a little longer at the quay. The air was warm and the sea calm. "There's a shooting star," said Duck. "Don't be daft," laughed Percy. "It's Harold. Look, he's hovering overhead." Something fluttered down towards Duck. His driver caught it. "It's a flag from the regatta. Harold's giving it to you as a present, Duck." "That was kind of Harold," whispered Duck. "He may have whirly arms instead of wheels, but he seems to understand just what an engine needs."
When the trucks arrived, Toby was delighted. They were full of splendid young trees, all ready for planting. "This is the best job I've ever had," said Toby happily. When Henry returned, he was most surprised. There were Trevor and Terence busily helping the workmen clear the torn stumps and branches. "Look, Henry," called Terence, "we're beginning again. The hillside will look better than ever before. You'll see." Now Henry can see the trees growing strong and tall, and the animals are coming back. Sometimes everywhere is quiet. At other times, Henry can hear leaves rustling or a bird's wing brushing the air. Often he can hear the sound of children laughing, and always he is happy here. "And that," said Thomas, "is the whole story. Did you like it?" "Yes, indeed," agreed the engines, "especially the happy ending." And soon they were all asleep too.